Happy Monday, everybody. It's time for another edition of Ask Mike. Courtney Mims alongside the one and only Mike Irwin here.
Yeah.
Love the little wave you got.
Spent a lot of time this morning talking with certain people that I trust, and I'm going to try to bust some myths. Challenge some things that kind of have been floating around there with regard to why Sam Pittman is coming back.
Okay.
Because I think there's some incorrect information out there.
So the Ask Mike Mythbuster edition is what we're going to call this one, and we're going to jump right in. Of course, we're going to talk a lot about Sam Pittman, but our first question is from Mousetown, and he wants to know what was accomplished against Florida International aside from saying we won a game. I saw some good things, but I'm not sure a lot of fans will see it that way.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure there are fans that wanted him fired, and then when they found out he wouldn't be after the game, they're looking at the game and going, well, so what? You beat a bunch of chumps. And so they don't see anything good in that game. Look, if you're Sam Pittman, I promise you there's one really good thing about that game, because in spite of what he said, anybody's saying, there was a reason Hunter Yurachek didn't make that announcement until after the game was over. He could have said that earlier in the week and saved a lot of problems, but he didn't. And I think he made that announcement after the game because he still was sitting there going, if you lose to these guys, that may change my mind. So it was big for Sam Pittman, even though he said he was happy to watch the players celebrate, but he never thought he was, because he would know if Yurachek was going to get rid of him. So I think he was a little bit wrong about that. I think there could have been some issues there. What else was accomplished? What about, and I keep getting this name wrong, what about Isaiah Augustave?
Augustave, I think that's what we have settled on from
Augustave,
Augustave. I think you're right.
Because you looked it up in their high school book.
Yes, in their high school, and the way that the coaches said it when they did interviews about him was Isaiah Augustave.
So he comes out of nowhere because Rocket Sanders got hurt. Rashad Dubinion got hurt.
Yeah.
And by the way, they're both out for this game and therefore out for the year because they have to have surgery. They tore meniscus or something.
Yeah, Rocket was a shoulder thing and Rashad was a knee thing.
Yeah, so they're both out. So now, even if they start A.J. Green, we're going to see Augustave in this game, and he was a pleasant surprise.
Oh my
In fact,
goodness.
he was so good, people after the game were going, where's this guy been? And once again, we get into this thing about Pittman sometimes saying something that maybe he should talk to somebody. Remember when we talked about Chad Morris having this little PR dude that stood there and kind of gave him idea? Well, maybe Pittman needs a little guy like that.
Or a communications
because
person.
What he said was why they didn't play him. He said he didn't know the plays. Come on, don't embarrass a kid like that. It makes him look bad.
Well, he said, and he kind of went into it where he said, well, he's a freshman and he's young. And I said, okay, that makes sense. My dad.
He said he didn't know the plays.
Then he went on to say, well, he doesn't really know the plays. And I went,
I doubt that's the case. I mean, if he didn't know the plays, he learned them by this game because he knew what he was doing and he was good. I think some of that, honestly, was you've got a fresh back that's not beat up, and this time of year backs get beat up. Maybe it slows them down a little bit. But man, that guy had energy. He did all kinds of things. I had 100 yards rushing. So that's a positive that came out of that game. Now I'm going to make some people mad.
Okay.
Because they don't want to give credit to anything. But here's what I'm going to say. What I saw in that game, even though they're playing, Florida International, and Florida International had lost a bunch of games and had not looked good in some games, they were fired up for that game. And what I saw was Arkansas came out and got behind and didn't panic, came back and got the lead, and by halftime the game looked like it was over. Even to the point where the color analyst they showed a picture of Sam Pittman talking to KJ Jefferson over by the bench. And he had his hand on his shoulder and he said, I know what he's telling him. He's telling him, hey, you've had a great, and you set the records. We're not going to play you in the second half because we need you for Missouri. We don't want you beat up. So we're going to sit you and we're going to play Criswell. Because Sam Pittman said they were going to play Criswell.
Yeah, he did?
Nope.
No, it didn't happen.
KJ comes back out. Augustave breaks one of these long runs, gets him all the way down close to the red zone, and then KJ does one of his lack of focus things where there's a receiver, I can't remember who, he's wide open on a crossing route, they showed it on the replay.
Wasn't it Armstrong? Was it Armstrong?
No.
Oh, no, okay, never mind.
He's wide open on a crossing route. There's nobody in between, so there's no lineman in the way, and there's nobody near the receiver. And he throws it like 3 or 4 yards behind him. He's, I mean, that's the kind of throw I would make. You know?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, come on, KJ, you've thrown the ball well. Why'd you do that? And then they tried to run the ball and nothing happened. Then they threw toward the end zone and nothing was. So they bring on Cam Little to kick a field goal and he misses it. And then those guys go back down and score and suddenly it's an 11-point game. Now you're in trouble again. They have seized the momentum. You've gone into the locker room and done what we know this team does this year, lose focus. This team came out of the locker room rededicated to getting back in the game, which they did, but then Arkansas got it together. KJ played well, everybody played well, and boom, they're back out there again with a big lead at the end. So I think those things are positive. Now, is that going to translate to Missouri? I don't know, but hopefully it will. Because here's the issue. This team has played poorly at home in SEC games. It's been awful. So, and this team has also played badly coming off of games in which you would think they would play well. So here's another game when you played well. You've just been told your coach isn't going to be fired, and supposedly everybody in the locker room went nuts.
Yeah.
So you're happy he's your coach and he's going to stay. So wouldn't you think they would come out fired up against Missouri?
Yes,
They've
absolutely.
got every reason to.
Well, I go back to, I think it was Brady Latham who said it in the press conference, and I liked what he said, where he's like, the locker room is excited about this game. The locker room hasn't given up. We are excited to play Missouri at the end of the season, and I think that this win kind of gave them like some confidence, some rejuvenation. I don't know, but I just like that answer.
I'm skeptical.
Oh, okay.
But this kind of showed me maybe, this is their you can say what you want about the opponent. This was their best game at home all year. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
They look better in this game at home than they have all year.
Yeah.
Because of the way they came back under adversity. So I'm hoping that will carry over.
Yeah.
But we will see.
We will see. And I want to give some credit, too, to Travis Williams and the defense as well, because you saw.
They had to make adjustments.
They had to make adjustments. And Landon Jackson said it because he in the press conference was pretty honest, kind of like Sam Pittman, where he said, they threw some things at us that we were not prepared for, that we did not see on tape, that we did not scout for. And so we were kind of, whoa, we were thrown off by it.
They've got a receiver that's going to the NFL.
They do. And so they threw some things at him that they just weren't prepared for, which was smart on FIU to show them something that they hadn't seen, that they weren't scouting for. But they made the adjustments, and I love to see that too from the defensive side, where they can come back and say, we're down, but it's going to be okay. Travis Williams made the adjustments, and they played a lot better, and I like to see that too.
To answer the question, those are some of the things that were positive.
I just wanted to add the defensive thing too. From WV Hog fan, Coach Pittman says that he is not worried about losing his job. Why should he? Either way, he's going to make at least $16 million. To me, I take it that he is not motivated to keep the job. The average fan would lose their income if they lost their job.
Yeah, well, clearly that question was submitted to us, and I try to answer every question before the announcement by Hunter Yurachek that Sam was coming back. However, he does make a good point, and to me, the mystery here, and you may be aware of this, but I'm not aware that Hunter Yurachek has ever answered the question. Okay, when he was hired, he came in, and one of the things he said in his press conference, he's not a fan of buyouts. His attitude is, when I hire a coach, I'll give you the money to win games. I'm not giving you money to lose. And that's what a buyout is. It's a guarantee that you get it even if you lose. He said, I want a guy that doesn't want a buyout, but he's confident enough in himself he doesn't have to have a buyout. And then he turned around and gave Sam Pittman the buyout. So I get what he's talking about. I wish we could change that. I think it's one of the worst things about college football. But it's economics. And it's agent driven.
Well,
and
it's for the agents. It's for the agents.
Yes, and if I had to answer this question, even though Hunter Yurachek's that I'm aware of has addressed it, I would say he probably got here and went, you know what, this is the SEC. I just can't get into this mode of putting myself in a position that no other ADs are going to put themselves in. If they would all agree to not do this buyout stuff, that'd be one thing. But I can't be the only one, so he went ahead and caved in on it. But there's no way to change that. And it's a fact. It is a fact. We just sat here and watched A&M throw this enormous amount of money. They say that this whole coaching change, when it's over, may cost them $150 million. Wow. What this tells me is that A&M not only has money, they've got stupid money. They got people that just stupidly throw their money at anything.
That's that oil money, Mike.
Because if you think Hunter Yurachek made a mistake, what about the mistake to hire Jimbo Fisher, and then you decide, because you gave him a ridiculous, nonsensical buyout, and then you bought him, you paid him out anyway, and they're probably going to turn around and do it again. So it tells me Aggie boosters are goobers. They are. I mean, this is what.
Yes.
But this is a warning. I'm telling you, this is a warning shot to all you people out there that don't understand the impact of NIL. It's not just how much NIL money you've got available. It's how committed are your boosters. And Razorback fans are mad right now because they think Arkansas boosters are cheapskates. No, they're just not stupid.
Yeah.
And if you've got somebody like A&M that's got these wacky boosters, do you think they won't eventually buy themselves a championship? They will, because they're willing to throw more money than other. There's a reason why Nick Saban said he didn't like it. There's a reason why Lane Kiffin said he didn't like it, because they know, even if, especially Saban, he knows that his people have money, his boosters have money, but they're not nuts like these Aggies.
No.
And so that's what they're worried about.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Alabama boosters too, because I was kind of looking through the top boosters. There's an article that came out a couple of years ago that was like the top boosters in the SEC and in all the Power 5 conferences. And, you know, Arkansas is in that top 50, so that means that they're not cheapskates, like
Right.
everyone wants to say. And Alabama is also there, but not as high as I would believe them to
Yes.
be. And so that makes me think that they're not like Texas A&M, where they're just willing, like you said, to throw their money.
It's not
whatever.
just how much money you have from boosters, it's are your boosters dopey? That's really.
You can see your Texas A&M hate runs deep,
Well,
Mike.
you
yeah.
gotta be a moron. If I'm an A&M booster, I'm going, why do we hire this yo-yo in the first place? I'm not gonna bail us out for giving them, come on, get it right the next time.
Yeah.
Then maybe I'll do a buyout that's normal.
Yeah, I mean, the buyout was insane. I mean, but that to me is, that buyout was negotiated, and it really benefits. I mean, it benefits the coach, obviously, but it also benefits the
the AD
agent.
that did it's not there anymore. So
Right, but I think also it benefits the agent. So, like when we talk about Sam Pittman's, right? Jimmy Sexton is Billy Napier's agent as well. He's making bank from buyouts.
Wouldn't it be nice if as an AD you just said to anybody you're talking to, I'm not hiring you if Jimmy Sexton is your agent. We're not. You know, I can find other coaches that don't have him as an agent. I don't want him.
He's like everybody's agent now.
I know.
I didn't realize he was Billy Napier's agent too. When I looked that up, and I went, "Whoa!"
Somebody needs to. I gotta believe there's something. He's doing something wrong. They ought to investigate him and catch him on some kind of fraud thing or something.
It may be like the bar. Can the bar investigate agents? I think so. Right there.
I don't know. Find something he's done wrong. A traffic ticket that he didn't pay. Something, and get him.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Mike Parallax Pig says, when Hunter Yurachek first arrived, he had a narrative on how coaches' contracts were out of control. We kind of talked about that. He had a perfect opportunity to give Sam Pittman a performance-based contract with a small buyout. Why did he cave?
Yeah, we kind of already addressed that. I mean, it's just a theory. I don't think he's ever explained it.
No, yeah, I don't think he has either.
But my guess is he got here and he just went, whoa, I'm in the SEC now. I'm not at the University of Houston. And everybody else does this. I can't be the only one that's not doing it. You know, if I could convince all the other ADs to think the way I do, I would go along with this. But I can't be the only one. I'm going to handicap myself every time I try to hire a coach. That's my guess.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good guess. And then also, when you're in those, we don't know what happens in those negotiations, right? But Sam Pittman also has a clause, right? He has the weird clause in his contract where he can't. I believe he handicapped himself on that he can't get another head coaching job, right?
Yeah, there was some stuff in there about
So
which
maybe
begs
that's
the question.
why.
Which begs the question: if you're not going anywhere, why do I have to pay you a big buyout?
That's true, but then I think that's where Jimmy Sexton's coming in. That's where he's saying, well, if you're going to put this unique clause in my client's contract, we're going to need a big buyout.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of. Again, we don't know. He hasn't addressed it. TZT HIB, I don't know how to say that.
We don't know what that means.
We don't know what that means. But what does it mean if Arkansas is forced to keep Pittman because there's no money for the buyout? That seems to imply we are never going to be able to compete in the SEC. Give me a reason to be optimistic, please.
Well, Trey Biddy in particular sort of addressed this of 247 Sports. He said, if this is the reason, and he didn't say it was, but he said that, that's what's been out there. If this is the reason why Pittman was retained, we might as well just leave this league, because if you can't play football with the big boys, if you aren't prepared to buy out a coach, you just keep him because you don't have the money, then you're in the wrong league. People misunderstood I haven't talked to Trey about this, but I don't think he was seriously suggesting. There were people, we're not going to get out of this conference. I don't think he seriously meant leaving the SEC. But what he was pointing out is there's no reason for you to be in this league if you're not going to try to compete. And if you can't come up with the buyout money, then you're not competing. Okay. However, stop, because I was told by somebody that I trust, and this is going to be controversial, but he's somebody that is in a position to know, that this wasn't the reason. That this wasn't the reason Pittman is coming back. That the reason he's coming back is that Hunter Yurachek doesn't want to do it himself, doesn't want to fire him, and believes if you save this money by not paying this buyout, you can take this money, and spend it on NIL and spend it on getting maybe a coach or two onto the staff. And there's already some evidence of that, because just on Monday, when all of this was being announced and Pittman was talking, Pittman at his Monday press conference sort of suggested there's a new thing going on with NIL. And then somebody said, what is it? And he goes, well, I don't want to talk about it right now, but I think this is what it is.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm now confident we've got what we need to get who we want. And then right after that, the number one offensive lineman in the portal, the number 3 overall player in the portal, committed to Arkansas. And I called Otis about this guy, because Otis knows players.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure he wasn't just some rummy guy that they're...
No, he's a JUCO guy, right?
Yeah, but sometimes the guys aren't what they're advertised to be. He said, no, this guy is the real deal. He's going to play in the NFL. And he said, yeah, they got him. So this is good news.
Great.
Because this is one of the things that I've been saying. Okay, if you're going to retain Pittman, he better go get some linemen. That's the number one issue.
And it's really hard to get off. We've talked about it on the show before. It's hard to get O-linemen.
But he's already come out ahead on this. So if the NIL thing is what did it, and it might have helped, then Yurachek's not off base here in trying to do this. So again, people are going to accuse me of being sunshine pumper. I'm just looking at the facts here. And they got this guy. Otis says there's another lineman that's really good that he thinks they can get, so that would be 2. You might need 3. I've had people tell me, no, I got to rebuild the whole offensive line. I don't think you have to do that. But you need 1 or 2 or 3 maybe. So this at least is some indication that that's right. Now, still to come is, who do you hire as offensive coordinator? Do you keep Kenny Guyton, or do you go out and get a name? And there's all kinds of names floating all over the place. There are guys in the NFL that were successful offensive coordinators at the college level, went to the NFL, didn't work out. They're out of a job right now. There's some people they could get. And especially if you throw some big money at some people. Somebody suggests that there's a couple of people out there that are really close to what Art Briles did, which is what Kendall Briles did. So they may go get somebody like that, so your offense goes back to being what it was, that sort of thing. So I just want to correct that. I now believe that it wasn't just that they couldn't come up with the buyout money. I don't think he wanted to spend the buyout money. I think Hunter Yurachek wanted to keep money to use to build better players, and he keeps Sam Pittman. And this time of year from now, he may be making all those people look dumb, including me, because I thought it was a very questionable decision. Now, it's been suggested that if he does this, and he has done it, that he himself could be fired next time if he has to fire Pittman. I'm told that's wrong too. I was told that if this doesn't work out and next year at this time or whenever it happens he has to fire Pittman, that the only consequences for Hunter Yurachek are the fact that he might have to hire the next coach under the supervision of a committee appointed by the Board of Trustees. They might look at him and say, wait a minute, man, this is the last time you screwed this football thing up. we're going to pay more attention to what you're doing this time.
I'm surprised, and you said this to me before the show, because I'm used to
Yeah.
seeing coaching committees,
But that's
right?
not the way
But
it's
that's not
usually
here,
done. It
right?
has happened in some instances, but not very often.
That's so interesting to me, because you normally at big time programs, you get a coaching committee. Like when I covered FSU and when I was in the Panhandle, we always talk to like the coaching committee, hey, we're putting together a team of people to help us vet the people that we're looking as candidates. So that's very interesting to me. But I don't think you're off base with that. I mean, that sounds like a good theory, and I know that you wouldn't say it on the show unless you had a good reason
I
to believe
it.
that.
I mean, it doesn't mean it's 100%, but I trust the guy who told me this.
Okay. Well, Hogman80 is mad. Dude's mad, Mike.
Dude's
mad. He says, let's get one thing straight. Hunter Yurachek is not and should not get fired. I believe if we got rid of him, it would be the worst decision that the university has made in a long time.
And, clearly there's a segment that are mad about Pittman coming back that don't feel that way, but I'm convinced that the majority of Razorback fans who, are not on the internet and don't get into all this, they like the fact that he's done a good overall job. Arkansas's got all these programs that are successful. Here's what I was told when I asked, again, somebody I trust, what about Yurachek? What does everybody think of him? He said, number one, he's really popular with the coaches and the players on campus. He said, that is important. It is important for an AD to have that relationship because it helps you keep coaches. It's not just you hire them, you keep them if they're good. He said, the number two thing about Yurachek is that the boosters they're not necessarily as high on him as the fans are. And he said, and he was talking about himself, he said, take me for an example. I don't like the fact that people are blaming boosters for this, and he said it's not true, first of all, but he said they're blaming us and saying we're cheapskates, and this is why we have to keep our coach. He said, I didn't give him the buyout. And I didn't approve of it, but nobody asked me, but I'm supposed to now bail him out?
Yeah.
So he said, yeah, I'm not irritated about that, but he said, I'm still not somebody that thinks Yurachek is not a good AD. I think he's doing a good overall job. I just don't like what he did here. And then he told me that stuff about the only thing that'll probably happen to him if he has to fire Pittman is he might have to use a committee to hire the next coach. But he did tell me there's at least a couple of three people on the board of trustees that are mad at him about some issues. One of them apparently has to do with Bud Walton Arena. Apparently there's at least one person on the board that is adamantly against spending a huge amount of money to take seats out of Bud Walton Arena and put some luxury seats in there. He said, you don't have to do that.
Okay.
Keep the atmosphere the way it is, make some cosmetic changes, spend a lot less money, and leave it alone. Now, that doesn't mean that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean.
But you've at least got somebody on the board that's not going to be real happy if they try to push that thing through. And I don't know where that stands right now. But that's where Yurachek stands, according to the guy I talked to. In good shape. They like him. One board of trustee guy may not be real happy with him. And he said, I'm not happy with the contract thing, but I'm not suggesting he shouldn't be the AD.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of, I mean, he's a favorable AD even when you look outside of Arkansas, right? When you talk to, other fan bases, Alabama,
If they ever got
Florida.
mad at him, he probably could just go, okay, bye, I'll
Yeah,
go.
I mean, even Missouri fans, I know that's crazy to say, but even they're like, yeah, your AD is like,
Yeah.
I mean, if he got fired, there would be a lot of people.
They're not going to fire him.
I know, but if he did, there would be a lot of people that would want to have him as their AD. JJ Hogg asks, agree with this assessment. Hunter wants to fire Sam, but Chancellor Brown disapproved and believes keeping Sam is the best So instead of spending money on a buyout, we spend it on new staff members, OC, O-line, and players.
Well, he's got part of it right,
Yeah.
and we've already talked to that part. But this is the only thing, I put this in there because I answer all questions.
Yeah.
I have not heard one thing about the chancellor having anything to do with this. So
Yeah,
I
me
don't
either.
think the chancellor stepped in and said, no, you can't fire him. I think, again, I believe that was Hunter Yurachek himself that decided not to do that, not the chancellor.
But that assessment
Yeah, the rest
goes
of-
exactly with what you
The
just
rest
said.
of it is what I was heard,
Yeah.
what I was told. Save the money, spend it on NIL, spend it on hiring coaches.
Well, and hey, I mean, if there's a good little bit of NIL money now to use, maybe we'll see some more.
Well, we'll see.
Some
We still got to sit
players.
back and wait.
I know. I know that's hard to do sometimes.
You got Dinkiewicz out there trying to get their players. I'm telling you, he's trying to recruit Arkansas's current commitments.
Oh yeah.
And he's going after some of them that they're trying to get commitments from. So
yeah.
I mean, this is going on right now.
Oh yeah, Arkansas's commits. There was one guy that the rumors were going on that he was going to visit Missouri, and
but
he said
he wasn't.
He wasn't, but I mean, they are trying. I do believe that. My three boneheads says, I'm glad Coach Sam Pittman is back. He took the job when it was a disaster. I thought he deserved another year. Could Arkansas make a bowl game if they beat Missouri? Would the schedule we played and the close losses be factored in?
Sometimes a team with 5 wins will get a bowl game, but that's because you don't have enough teams you got more bowl games
than teams
qualified. So sometimes people, I know you and I talked about this, and you know more about this than I do because you looked into it more.
I did, because Florida, I was looking about Florida.
Yeah, because there are other teams, a lot of other teams that would probably get in before Arkansas. So I think if you're hoping that happens, you're dreaming.
Yeah, you're a little bit dreaming because there's also other teams, like if Florida goes and loses to FSU, there's a lot of bowls that we're hoping Florida would make a bowl because it would be favorable to have them in a matchup with someone else. So you've also got other SEC teams, maybe at 5 wins too, that say, hey, we might take them over Arkansas, just based on the situation, where the bowl is, what the matchup will be.
Now watch us end up being wrong about this.
I know, right? Can you imagine if they got 5 wins and they did get picked?
But the other part of this is beating Missouri. Come on, you can't just assume that. That's idiotic.
And we're going to talk about that. I think there's a question in here about beating Missouri, so we're going to get to that. Hog in Iowa says Sam made the comment that there are multiple players who could return for a super senior year in 24. There are a majority of those who I would encourage to move on due to the lack of effort they've exhibited over the past few games. What are your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, I'm sure that could happen. Sam has said there are guys that we just go ahead and go. You know, I mean, you never know because he's not going to comment on it.
Yeah.
But the real issue is, do they start losing players they don't want to leave? And we'll find out. The portal for leaving opens up, in a couple of weeks or a week or so? I don't know. I haven't looked at it. It's pretty,
December. Doesn't it open in December?
It's early December, I think.
It's early December, yeah.
So we'll know pretty soon after the regular season is over if we have a bunch of mass exoduses. But if they've got this NIL money, I think it may be able to keep some of them from leaving. Now, here's the issue to me on this. What does Sam Pittman do if KJ comes back and says, hey, I want to come back?
Yeah.
He could, because he seems to be in love with KJ. So he could just say, yep, okay, great. If you do that, Criswell's gone, I think. He's not going to sit here another year and sit behind him. So there's that. But what if Pittman, a little light bulb goes off in his head, and he says, oh, KJ, that's great. But he said, if you come back, we'd like you to lose 15 pounds. This 250-pound stuff running, come on, you need to be a little quicker. And I believe that.
Okay.
You need to be a little quicker. So you're going to have the discipline to lose the weight this time. And if we bring a guy in here, whoever we bring for offense, I still want you to adjust to his offense. We're not going to adjust this to you. So you need to do that. And by the way, I would like to see you be more focused. In other words, I don't want one drive where you're looking really good and the next one where you're throwing the ball 10 yards behind the receiver. You know, we got to have more focus from you. So which of those does he do? My guess is he'd go, come back. I love you, because
I think so.
He said nothing to indicate that that's not how he feels. But it is interesting to ask yourself, what will Pittman do on guys that say, I'll come back? Rocket says he wants to come back. Do you tell him the same thing? Hey, Rocket, lose 15 pounds. If we're going to pay you $500,000 or whatever they're paying, I want you to lose 15 pounds. You know. Now, here's the other thing. I've been told by the same booster that I talked to earlier that we've talked about lack of leadership inside the team. He has his own theory on that, and he says it's NIL related. We already talked, and I got people that are disputing me. This is not why Catalan left last week. We talked about Catalan supposedly found out that Malik Hornsby, a backup quarterback last year, would get more, and he left. This guy said that's not the only thing that's going on there. He said, Sam needs to manage NIL. He said, all coaches are going to have to learn how to manage NIL money. You can't just stack it up with 1 or 2 or 3 guys because you're going to have resentment. So you got to manage it. You got to figure out how to do it. So this is part of it. This is a part of, okay, I'm Rocket, I want to come back. Well, Rocket, that's great, but maybe if you'll lose 20 pounds and be 230 instead of 250, and you'll be quicker, but you're still as good a running back as you are, it will help you in the NFL because they want you to be quicker. And then we'll pay you your NIL money. Put a little carrot in front of it, Will Pittman do this? I don't know if he will do it. That's what I would do.
Yeah, but I don't know if the rules, and I don't know if this is correct. Can you hold NIL money away from someone? Because technically it's the businesses that can pay, right? Rocket has an NIL deal with Huggies and Hellmann's and all these things. I don't know about
that, but I got to believe you can do it.
Okay, all right. I mean, I feel like if you're
he went out totally on his own and got an agent and he worked that deal, then you got nothing.
Then you got nothing to say. Where I think maybe not with KJ, but with Rocket, a lot of his NIL deals are outside.
The head coach could also go to those people and say, hey, I've talked to him, and so why don't you help me out? Why don't you talk to him and say, if he'll lose 30 pounds, you can still have it again next year?
That's going to be tough. I mean, if you're a business that's a national company.
I mean, we're going to treat these guys like pros.
True.
Listen, I mean, you as a pro athlete, they're going to negotiate. You want to keep getting your money, you got to do this or this or this.
I just feel like holding that athlete's money, they're going to go, well, I'm just going to go over here and get it done without you. You know what I mean?
Okay, we got August Dave.
We got Isaiah August, Dave. You can go do whatever you want. I love it, Mike. I love it. This is my favorite name, Mike. Oh, no, I skipped a question. Sorry. Blood Red Hog says, it seems improbable Pittman can turn this around. Is Hunter basically sacrificing next year for budgetary reasons? It appears Hunter is saying it's too expensive to pay a $16 million buyout and hire a new coach and staff, so let's just take the cheaper option and hope for the best.
Well, again, part of it, but not cheap. Take the cheaper route and hope for the best. There's a plan there.
Okay, yeah.
And we've already talked about the plan. So I think he's got partly correct, but not completely correct.
Yeah, I think we literally just talked about this, though.
Isn't it amazing how we get different versions of the same question?
Different version of the same question here today. What are you guys doing? You guys are all on the same wavelength. Okay, now to my favorite name of the week. You get the award for the best name. Auburn Can Bite Me. Ass. Did Hugh Freeze just rat poison his team? Runs his mouth about embarrassing my Hogs and gets a payback from New Mexico State. Hilarious.
Okay, a disclosure here.
Okay.
I know who this is.
Oh, really?
Because it's a text message to my phone, and the guy's name pops up when he does that, right? So I know him, but since he just chose to describe himself as Auburn Can Bite Me, that's what I'm going to go with.
I love it. Can you please text him and say that's the best name of the week?
So, yes, you are correct. Hugh Freeze rat poisoned his own team, and he got what he deserved because he pops off about how, good. I could have run the score up more, but I didn't. And the message you're sending to your players is, you guys are so good that we took it easy on Arkansas in their own place. And then you go back home and lose to New Mexico State, and you get beat badly. Now, New Mexico State's not a terrible team. They didn't lose to a bunch of yo-yos, but they're not great. And you should have won the game, or it should have been more competitive. So I guess Hugh Freeze needs to wake up a little bit and learn to stop popping off. And I hope he doesn't, because I think if he keeps doing that, he's going to get himself in more trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't like the guy.
No, I mean, it was definitely, you didn't have to say to when the reporter asked that question, you could have phrased it in a nicer way than, well, we could have run up the score on them. We just chose not to.
Yeah.
Like, we put in our backups, and it's just that, to me, that was like, you were asking for it, right?
He rat poisoned his own team.
He was asking for it. Pig's Feet asked, if Arkansas had kept Bryles, do you think the season would have turned out same, better, or much better?
I think better, but not much better. We were talking about this.
Yeah.
I think I could find 2 wins.
BYU, I think.
BYU and Mississippi State.
Yep, I agree with you.
I think if he had been here, they'd have won those 2 games. He still can't make the offensive line better. But KJ would have probably functioned better and been more comfortable in a different offense. So that's the difference in going to a bowl and not going.
Absolutely, and I think we even talked about it after the BYU game, and I believe even after the Mississippi State game, I can't remember, but after the BYU game for sure, there were some coaching issues and there were some clear things that were called that we were saying, why did you call that? What were we thinking there? Why were we going to that? And so I even said on the radio, I think after that game, if Bryles had been the OC, that would be a win for me. And so it would be going to a bowl game, which I think Hog fans would be very excited about instead.
More so than where we are right now.
Exactly,
sure.
More so than where we are now. Okay, we have another question from Razor Alex 88, our guy Razor Alex. In response to last week's response, hey, I like to enjoy myself. Life is too short to remain angry over football. I'll admit I did leave the Auburn game right after the first drive of the third quarter. I saw the writing on the wall and just couldn't do it anymore. I will be there for the FIU game, cheering as much as I can. I'll be enjoying the nice, warm San Diego on Christmas, Holiday Bowl, and football is a bonus.
So he sent it in before
before the FIU game.
But he had to be happy with that so he can go off to San Diego and be happy and just be chilling out. You know?
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's good to have fans like that. You have to have an ability. I know people that can't do this.
Yeah.
They just get upset, and these are the people that are on the internet mad all the time, and you shouldn't do that to yourself.
Yeah.
You got to reach a point where you're going, okay, I have no control over this situation, so I'm not going to sit here and steam over it. And I'll just go find something else to do till the football team gets better.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that Razor Alex 88 gets to enjoy some football with two teams in the Holiday Bowl that are not the Arkansas Razorbacks.
That's not the way I would deal. I wouldn't be watching any football games, but I might be doing something else.
Oh, I think you can go into a bowl game where you have no dog in the fight. You can just kind of enjoy the football game.
Yeah,
and say,
you can laugh at both teams, right?
You can. You can laugh at both teams. You can enjoy yourself. You wish, though, maybe he's planning on going next year over Christmas time or Thanksgiving time because of basketball. San Diego in the tournament over there. So that'd be kind of cool. We'll see if you're going next year. Tom in Fort Worth says, I believe you have mentioned that Arkansas didn't get a lot of high-level interest in the head coaching job when Harder Yurachek fired Chad Morris with a couple games left. I'd like to get your thoughts on whether or not firing a coach during the season has an impact on the interest of other coaches that could fill that position.
No, I don't think it really matters. Some ADs like to fire a coach with 2 games left because they already know the season is messed up and it gives them a head start. So, for instance, when you're out there looking at going to agents, people already know you're looking for a coach. So there's no question about that, right? So if I'm trying to find a coach in secret, this is why people have tried to tell me last week, well, Hunter's out there, he's just contacting agents. And I'm going, what agents? Here's what an agent does. If an AD contacts them about his guy, the agent goes, oh, Arkansas is interested in him. Okay, I'm going to float that name out there and see if I can get some more people interested. So you can't keep that secret. So that's why if you just get it out there in the open, it doesn't matter. Everybody knows you're looking for a coach. So that's one thing. The other reason you would do this early is so that when the season is over, you can act as quickly as possible to bring a guy in because you've got that early signing period coming up and the portal's still active and all that stuff. So the sooner you can get a guy in place, the better. But look, you can't always do that. And the rules have changed a little bit over the years. We didn't have a portal in the days that I'm talking about, but I remember when they brought Hatfield in here after they fired Lou Holtz, there was some talk about Jimmy Johnson. He was at Oklahoma State. And there were other guys that, and so it came out that Frank Broyles was looking at Tom Osborne at Nebraska, and he'd been very serious. That would have been a huge hire at the time because he was at the top of his game. And Frank tried to keep that secret, and he couldn't do it. And so he came into the SID office, which we had a media workroom right outside the SID, so we knew everything. And Frank could always talk loud. So he knew that we were all in there thinking about Tom Osborne. And he walks in there and he goes, he just said something real loud to the SID that would indicate this isn't happening. So then we jump up and run and follow him out into the hallway. And I've got my camera. I got a camera there. And we're asking him, what's the deal here? And he said, look, it just got too volatile. He said, we got a recruit And Osborne was interested, but he wanted to wait till the bowl game was over. I can't wait till January the 2nd to start hiring a coach. Our recruiting will be dead. So that's why I went with Hatfield. So even though you didn't have the early signing period, you had a signing period in January. Even back then, you didn't want to wait very long to hire a coach. Well, now it's even more important because you got that early signing period, which a lot of guys are going to. So there's a reason why you go sometimes fire a guy before the season is over. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think if you do it with 10 games left, it's bad. But if you're talking a couple, 3 games, and it's obvious that the guy's going to have to be fired, yeah, why not? So, and I don't think it has the time that it happened at Arkansas with Morris, that didn't have anything to do with, what that had to do with is they didn't have an AD in place, and they thought they had Malzahn, and then when Malzahn wasn't available, they just went, oh, what do we do now? And then it left the interim AD to kind of figure out what to do, and that's why they ended up with Chad Morris. It didn't have anything to do with firing Pittman or Bielema early.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you're right about that. It also, the recruits want to know, they don't want to be left in limbo, right? And there's you hear rumblings of, like we heard rumblings of Jimbo Fisher and things of that, all throughout the season. And so recruits are sitting there going, well, is he going to be your coach or not? And so you kind of have to make that very known before, like you said, that early signing period. It's very important. So Hot Dogger says, KJ beat the school record for touchdown passes, but he has had an extra year. If not for that, who holds the record for passing touchdowns?
Yeah, Brandon Allen held the record. I don't know, what was it, 60 I've got it written
64.
64.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think they both played for 4 years, played some their first year, and then started for 3 years. So essentially they had the same amount of opportunities.
Because KJ he only played a little bit.
He played some that first year. He was not a starter. So he started for 3 years. Brandon Allen started for 3 years. I don't think he had a built-in advantage because of, he's a fifth-year senior. A lot of fifth-year seniors. Yeah. And so, no, I don't think that I don't think KJ broke the record just because he played longer than other people.
No, I don't think either.
Mallett, maybe you have because he was only here 3 years because he transferred in and he had to sit out a year.
Right.
So he was only here 3 years, and that's probably, if he had been here 4 years, he would probably set the record.
Yeah, probably set the record. It's interesting to see that though, because I think if KJ had broken the record next year, if he had come back and broken the record, you would have
Or if he comes back, he will break his own record.
He will break his own record, but then you kind of have an advantage, right?
Yeah,
because you have
that would be an advantage.
Yeah, exactly. Marty Bird's proxy points out, used to be when a college player hired an agent, all of their eligibility ceased. Has that changed too? Are agents now legal, or do players negotiate their own NIL deals?
You can legally have an NIL agent. Mm-hmm. It's widely believed that some players are taking their NIL agent and using them as a sports agent.
Yes.
But it's hard to prove.
Well, I mean,
no.
Is it hard to prove?
Yes. I was told that it's probably happening a lot, and the NCAA is not investigating it because it would be very difficult to go in there and prove. And I think, here's what I think. I think the NIL is afraid, the NCAA is afraid of NIL because they got burned on it. So I think anything that's related to NIL right now, they're just going, okay.
Well, Nick Smith, here's the thing. It's hard to prove because NIL agents are also sports agents, right? Sports agents are also NIL agents.
You can have a guy that's both.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, I checked on this. If you've got an NIL agent who happens to be a sports agent, if you're still in college, he theoretically cannot act as a sports agent until your eligibility is up.
Right, he can't act as a sports agent.
And what I'm told is they violate that all the time, and the NCAA is basically going, whatever.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's hard to, again, like you said, it's hard to prove because he's just like, well, I'm his NIL agent. I'm dealing with NIL dealings. A good example, I mean, Nick Smith Jr., his NIL agent is now still his sports agent.
Yeah.
So it just carried over. You're just saying, okay, we were your NIL agent in college, and now we're your sports agent after college. So S. Giles says, okay, we beat FIU, and Pittman gets to keep his job. You know what's next? Mizzou, Mike. We're screwed.
Well, You could look at it that way. I mean, we talked about this. I watched the Missouri-Florida game on replay. I think it was last night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
on last night.
You're going to bring up that? You're going to bring...
No, I mean, Florida almost won that game.
I know they did.
There were, on that last drive, Cook almost got intercepted twice. I mean, it was like, that guy was right there with just grab it, you know. So Missouri got lucky. They got some breaks in there. Now, look, Cook threw a great pass on like 4th and
it was like 3rd and 17.
Yeah, 3rd and 1,000,000 yards.
Yeah, it was 3rd and 17.
And he completed the pass, and that's what got him where they eventually ended. And he completed 2 more. But they clearly overlooked Florida a little bit, and that's at Missouri. So they got to come here. You know what they're going to be thinking. These yo-yos, they're not any good. They're terrible. Look what they did to, I mean, we're much better than Auburn, and Auburn just beat them. I mean, you can't get that out of your players' heads. So if they come in here and they're totally overconfident, you could beat them. But there has to be another element to that, and is your players can't come out going, oh, I don't think we're going to play today. I'm tired. I don't have any energy. I'm just going to do this. If they play the way they did against Auburn, they will get steamrolled.
Oh, absolutely. But I think it's going back to what we said in the press conference. I felt like there was this this renewed energy, and I liked it. And I'm like, look, they're trying to end the season on a high note, right? Everyone in that locker room is trying to end the season on a high note. They know everyone is doubting them in this game. They know that they're the underdogs, and they're going to try and prove something.
Okay.
That's what you hope, right?
That's what you hope.
And Missouri's going to overlook Arkansas because,
Yeah, well, that's
so
what
many
you
people
hope, but
have,
I
right?
don't know that I think it's going to happen, but I could be wrong.
Hey, maybe they just used all that energy. Missouri was trying to beat that Florida team. They just used all their energy.
I think
They're
they
going to be
overlooked
sluggish.
Florida totally. I think they went, Florida lost to Arkansas. They're terrible.
Yeah.
They found out they weren't so terrible.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens this Friday, because it's a short week for them. So we'll find out what happens on Friday. And I like what you ended on. We got a basketball question this week, folks. Eddie Lynn asks, is the football team rubbing off on the basketball team? Do those guys hang out together on campus? Tell Muss to keep his players away from the football team.
Again, disclosure, I know Eddie Lynn, and he's a big Hog fan that lives in Lubbock, Texas. And so I called him up and I said, look, that's stretching it a little bit. I'm sure they probably know each other, but that's not what happened to them in the UNC Greensboro game. Those guys were probably looking ahead to going to Atlanta. I would be. I'm not going to criticize them for something that if I was a basketball player, that's exactly what I would have done. And there were some things that happened. You had one of your centers, one of your inside guys had back spasms, Jalen Graham. So, is that his name?
Yeah, Jalen Graham. Yeah, you got it. And he had the back issues again.
Yeah, he has back issues, and he wasn't there. And then Mekhi Mitchell did one of his disappearing acts. I think he got in foul trouble real quick.
His disappearing
and so that left everything on Trevin Brazile. And Brazile's not a standalone center. He's not some guy that's going to defend the paint for the entire game. So that hurt him. And then the Arkansas said, just shoot well. And you're going to have nights like that when your better people don't shoot well. UNC Greensboro didn't overachieve. I went and looked up their stats, and they hit 9 threes. They've been averaging about 10 a game. So they didn't overachieve, and they've been shooting about what they shot. So and Musselman said it going in, they're very good. So you didn't lose a bunch of yo-yos. But here's the good part, because they got hammered by these dopey Missouri fans when they lost, remember?
I do remember.
Because Missouri fans are making fun of Arkansas's football, and Arkansas fans are coming back and saying, well, we got a good basketball team. And now, oh, yeah, you really got a good basketball? So what happens last night? Missouri loses to a team that had 0 wins. I think they were 0-5.
Yeah, they were not a good team.
So now, now the basketball team's got a little payback to Missouri.
Yeah, and I think to Musselman's credit and to this team's credit, these lower tier D1 teams, right? I put this in quotes because my dad is a D2 coach.
Sure.
And he sees so many top talented D1 players go to these lower tier D1 teams because rosters are overloaded in these Power 5 teams because of COVID. You're still seeing the effects of that. You're seeing the transfer portal and different NIL, all of this affects it. And so you're seeing these rosters look a lot better than they
More parity.
probably shouldn't be because of all of these different factors going into it. So these teams are much better than they seem, if that makes sense. And I think that there's something to be said about UNC Greensboro, and this is a team that you could see in the postseason that possibly, if they keep playing like they did against Arkansas,
Right.
could make a case for themselves to be in the tournament.
Yeah.
And
So it all worked out. I mean, we'll find out when they get to Atlantis. I mean, I think they're already there, aren't they?
Yeah, they're already there, and they play first game on Wednesday.
Okay,
So
see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. I like that. We're going to end on that note. We'll see what happens for the basketball team and the football team this week, and we'll see you guys next Monday to answer more of your questions.